Hello and welcome back to the channel. I am Justice, and today we're going to be doing a deck profile for Raging Cat. This is the deck that I used to get first place in the first ever official Banlist tournament that was run on the Speed Duel League server. It was the first one that was run after the Niagara list was announced. I won that tournament. I'm a big fan of Raging Cat. And if you've been paying attention to Banlist events lately, you'll know that this deck has been gaining in popularity quite a bit. So you might be asking yourself, well, Justice, you won a few weeks ago. What makes you qualified to talk about this deck? Well, I just so happen to be the actual creator of this deck. Not just for Banlist. I actually played this deck to a top 8 finish in SDL's Win-A-Box all the way back in May. Also played it to top 8 in Giant Card event in the Remote Duel Extravaganza that was held last month. In the Friday one, I believe it was, which is the biggest one. I've been playing this deck for a long time, been working on it for a long time. That's right, you have actually found the premier source for information on Raging Cat. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the deck profile. We're going to start with the skill. This is what makes the whole deck work. It is Cyrus. Often overlooked in the show, but he is a hero here. We're using his skill Room for Growth, which takes any of our level 3 monsters and makes them gain attack equal to 300 times their level until the end of our turn, so they're going to gain 900 attack. And so what monsters are we going to be using for this skill? Why, we're only going to be using 2 monsters, but 3 of each, and that is where the deck gets its name, Raging Cat. That is 3 copies of Raging Flame Sprite. It is 3 copies of Crystal Beast, Amethyst, Cat. Both of these can attack directly. Raging Flame Sprite with the skill will go up to 1000 attack to start, hit directly, and if it deals damage, it gains 1000 attack, so it just keeps getting bigger if your opponent lets it hit directly multiple times, so it's a huge threat they have to deal with. Amethyst Cat is another direct attacker. With 1200 attack, it can go up to 2100 with the skill, but if it attacks directly using its own effect, its attack is halved, so they'll take 1050 damage if it attacks directly. The neat part about the cat is that since it is going up to 2100 attack, you can actually also use it to beat over opponent's monsters if you need to. Things like, say, a breaker or just whatever it is. 2100 attack can beat over a lot of things, or you can just go directly to hit for 1050. This is the deck's win condition right here. Each of these are attacking for 1000 or more potentially directly. You get in 4 attacks, you win the game. Very simple game plan. The rest of the deck is to make sure that this game plan works. So these were the monsters. Let's go ahead and get into the rest. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the spells here, and it's just 3 copies of Book of Moon. Those are our spells. It's a very versatile spell. It protects your monsters. It can help reset things like Nightmare Wheel if you're not playing in an NA Extravaganza event. It's a very, very versatile card. This is what we're using for our limited 3 portion of the list. We're just going with 3 copies of Book of Moon. It really does everything you want it to do. Moving on, the rest of the deck is going to be the trap lineup. First and foremost is going to be Floodgate Trap Hole, the card that probably could have been on the limited list, but is not. So we do get to run 3 copies. What better way to protect your monsters than to flip your opponent's monsters face down permanently so they can't threaten yours? Floodgate needs no introduction, really. This card is an absolute staple of the Banlist format, and also is a nice answer to Cyber Angels as well. So moving on, this was covered. So for those of you who may have seen it, Autotoxin did a video which he said was inspired by me and Raging Cat. And he did talk about Waboku. However, I think he missed just how good this card is in this deck, as he said he was only running 2. This card is absolutely a 3 of in this deck. Not only does it protect your monsters, which is the biggest thing, but it's chainable, or you can activate it whenever you want. This is relevant in matchups where you feel like they might have something coming down that can threaten you. Say the one of Jinzo. If you suspect your opponent is about to drop a Jinzo on you, you can even draw phase Waboku. This is more relevant in non-Banlist format when Jinzo is not limited to 1, but I've made that play multiple times. Just flipping out the Waboku early can be useful, or again, it can be used to bait out spell and trap removal, and it basically says, yeah, you're not doing anything to my monster this turn. You're not dealing damage to me. You're not destroying my monster. Waboku is absolutely amazing for this deck. Do not underestimate how strong this card is when you only need to get in 4 direct attacks total. Next, we're going to be running 2 copies of Wall of Disruption. It is a very powerful card. It's not at 3 just because it does require your opponent to do something, and that's kind of the point. So it becomes a little more conditional. It's obviously not chainable, but it can be an absolute blowout card. If they try to attack into your monster, they have multiple monsters in play, which oftentimes they will, thanks to your books and your floodgates. Wall of Disruption can just absolutely blow them out, drop their monster down to very low attack, potentially even 0, swing into your monster, they take the battle damage, plus destroy their monster. You know, it's basically the same as if you had gotten in another direct attack with your sprite or your cat. So very, very powerful, but again, a little bit conditional, so we run that at 2. We're also running at 2, and this is where we're getting our limited 2 portion of the deck. We are going to be running 2 Nightmare Wheels. This is not just a straight burn deck, and it's actually a misconception that a lot of people in the community seem to have when they misname the deck something like Sprite Burn. It's not. Those people clearly don't know what burn decks are. Burn decks win through effect damage. That's why they're called burn decks. Nightmare Wheel just so happens to be one of the best ways that we have to protect our monsters. And again, our whole Spell and Trap lineup, you've seen the theme throughout, it's all about protecting our monsters, keeping them in play so we can attack to win the game. You know what burn decks are not famously known for? Summoning monsters and attacking with them to try to win. This is not a burn deck. If you try to play this like a burn deck, you're not going to do very well. You have to understand your win condition is your monsters and it is attacking with those monsters. Don't get me wrong, the 500 damage return from Nightmare Wheel can definitely be relevant. I'm not saying it's nothing, but it is not the main way you win a game. This is designed, again, to lock your opponent's monsters up to prevent them from threatening your monsters. Your monsters do not have a lot of attack points on your opponent's turn. So you need ways of protecting them. This is a great way to do it. This is what we're using from the limited 2 list. And last but not least, with 1 card left, you might have guessed, and after all the talk about it not being a burn deck, we have the best burn card in Speed Duels. We are going to be playing the One of Zoma. Really, many decks can be playing this card. This card, I've said it many times, was an absolute mistake to be added to Speed Duels. Never should have been included in the format. It's now limited to 1, which I'd rather it be banned, but they're not banning any cards right now. But we play the 1, as most decks probably should be. This card is still just absurd. You play it. So that is it for the main deck. Let's go on to the side deck. I will say that this is not going to be exactly the same as what I ran, just because I've been tinkering with the side deck a lot over the course of time. Most of it is the same, though. We do have a single copy of Golden Ladybug. This is the anti-burn card. Burn is really the only matchup that you sided in for, because suddenly there only 2 Nightmare Wheels suddenly become a lot less effective when you just heal that 500 back every turn. So this is anti-burn. Sometimes you need to be able to get rid of your opponent's monsters, and for that we do have the big boy Lava Golem, speaking of things that probably never should have been introduced to Speed. The 1000 burn damage is very nice. Definitely can help seal games. This, honestly, believe it or not, where I side this in the most is in the burn matchup. Because they want to just let you sit there on floodgated monsters or whatever while they just, do nothing. So Lava Golem can really punish that very, very passive style of play, where it's like, all right, well, if you won't let me attack with my monsters, I need another way to win. Lava Golem gives you that. Honestly, there's really not much else I would side in Lava Golem against. But if you are anticipating a lot of burn/stall in whatever Banlist meta that you have, whether it be online or locals or whatever, then Lava Golem does very well at dealing with that. If you don't anticipate that, I wouldn't even side it, honestly. It's not that there's no other matchups it can be useful in, but that's really where it's best. We do side 2 copies of Diffusion. This is very specifically an anti-Union card. In non-Banlist format, it's also used as an anti-Dragoon card. However, in Banlist format, Dragoon shouldn't exist at all in any way. So it's really just Unions, because actually Unions can give this deck a lot of trouble. So this is a way of dealing with those. Right now, we're also running 1 copy of Waking the Dragon. Hey, more cards that shouldn't have been introduced to Speed Duels. I wonder if we should talk about something like that on an upcoming podcast episode of State of Speed. Hint, stay tuned for exactly that discussion. This card is, of course, anti-back row removal. This deck is very dependent on its back row removal. Expect your opponent to side in more back row removal. Things like Straight Flush are going to be a menace in this format. So Waking the Dragon just punishes that severely. I don't really have an extra deck prepared. Extra deck should be pretty standard at this point. You're going to be running things like Cyber and Dragon, Arcana Knight Joker, Thousand Eyes Restrict, Destiny and Dragoon. You should know what to put in your extra deck. If you're not sure, leave a comment down below. I can go over it with you. I can even do a video on that if we really need to, but I think extra deck should be pretty standard at this point. You know what you're just running with Waking the Dragon. You notice it's only 5 cards. The 6th slot is a flex slot, and honestly, even more than that. Again, if you're not anticipating burn, you really don't need these here, right? Consider even things like Straight Flush. Crystal Beasts can definitely be a problem for Raging Cat. So Straight Flush can be an absolute blowout card against them, or even things like Dust Tornado if you prefer that, if you think your opponent's going to be playing around Straight Flush. Really, it just comes down to what threatens this deck and what do you expect to see in your meta. Again, whether it be online or locals or whatever. So think about that, side deck accordingly. The side deck is very, very flexible. There's no cards that absolutely must be in here. If you really fear Cyber Angels, you can do Mind Crush, whatever. But I will say the main deck is actually very well equipped to deal with Cyber Angels, since Floodgate, Trap Hole, and Wabaku are both very good. Wabaku shutting down their OTK turn, and is also a card that you just chain to Izana's effect, and then send that same Wabaku for her effect. Floodgate is the same thing. The deck actually has a pretty decent Cyber Angel matchup, so there is that. But yeah, side deck as you see appropriate for your matchups you expect to be seeing. Other than that, as I said, this deck really is all about its monsters. It may only run 6 because you don't want to be opening 3 or 4 monsters. You want your opening hand to be 1, maybe 2 monsters, and then spell and trap support for it. So the 6 is really designed to try to make your odds the best possible to draw that kind of opening hand. I ran the math, and it's at 7 monsters that the likelihood starts going up that your hands get really awkward and have too many monsters with not enough back row support. So 6 really is the optimal number, both in testing and just in the math, the actual odds. So that's it, my friends. That is it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. This is Raging Cat, presented to you by the person who created the deck, who has played it in events more than anyone else, who has topped with it more than anyone else. I hope you enjoyed. If you do have any questions, anything that I did not cover in this deck profile, please do feel free to leave your comments down below in the comments section. And if you want to know how to beat this deck, well, I've done that too. So look forward to more Banlist deck profiles, as well as I do have one regular format deck profile. I can talk deck profile that will be on the way. So do look forward to those. If you haven't already, do make sure to subscribe to the channel. Yeah, hope you all enjoyed. So that is it. So until next time, as always, my friends, be good to yourselves, be good to each other, good luck in all of your games, and we will see you soon.